Books teach us, they inspire us, they challenge us, and they expand our horizons. Books contain the best thoughts of the greatest minds in history, but the problem is, there are millions to choose from. So what should you invest your time reading? What should you spend your money on? How do you sort through all the bullshit and find the good shit? You let the superior men do the work. Matt and Jay take the best books, pick the most important points, and distill them down to a concentrated 30-minute podcast. We help you find the books you need to read and why you need to read them. You may even learn something. So take out your coffee, tea, a glass of wine, or a good IPA. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to the Superior Men Bookcast. And welcome to the Superior Men Bookcast. Thank you on behalf of Jay and myself. I appreciate you guys joining us here. Today's book is an amazing book, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I know Jay introduced me to that book, and it's amazing. Let me go full book title. Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. David Goggins, Goggins. Fantastic book. If you guys have not read this, you should. You absolutely should be reading this. This is amazing.
You really should read it twice because there's so much.
I've listened to it once and read it once. So this is great. But so what is this book about here? Let's talk about this. What are some of our themes? It's basically this guy who came from the worst shit circumstances you could possibly think of to achieving definitely greatness as far as what he has accomplished in his life, considering where he's come from. Actually, not even considering where he's come from. It's amazing. But really, I say it's like this is all about change through hard work. Embracing the hard work. The harder you work, the bigger the change is. The only limitation is in your mind. It's awesome.
It's absolutely incredible. Goggins, and then he has Adam Skolnick is his. You don't want to call him a ghostwriter because in the podcast, the audiobook version, which by the way is the one that I recommend that you start with. The actual book, physical book, is great as well, but the audiobook is a podcast / audiobook where both Goggins and Skolnick, who's his kind of his main writer, ghostwriter, but they discuss and converse, and there's an extra 4 or 5 hours worth of kind of like off the cuff material and extra details. They have put together an amazing kind of picture of Goggins as he built himself up from this kid who was just beaten down in every possible ways, and then what he grew to over time. And it really I think it kind of blows away pretty much anybody's excuses.
Right.
Which is,
and that to me is what's
kind
awesome.
of the theme, right?
Yeah, no, that's the big thing. It's, you're getting rid of those, you're eliminating excuses. You just, and I love it. Just, it's an overall thing with him where it's just like, no matter what, if it hurts, it's good. That means there's your reward. That pain after he does these 100-mile runs where he's just enjoying the pain that he's in afterwards because he deserves it. He
earned it.
Yeah, he earned it. It's awesome, super awesome.
Yes.
So really, this book.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So really, this book is really for everyone, unless ridiculous high achiever. Like, I don't think David Goggins would read David Goggins' book. That's really the only one that I would say, unless he's just sort of got a morbid curiosity. But the David Gogginses of the world are probably too busy, doing everything. So this book, yeah, for everyone else, yeah,
for everyone,
right.
For everyone else,
this
is for you.
About 290 pages long, audible versions, just shy of 14 hours. Start there, read it. It's amazing. You listen to it. That's how I took in this book first, was listening to it and then going back through and studying some of it. So it fantastic. Definitely worth it.
Oh, it's so great. And what you're saying there, Matt, when you absorb the audio version, you realize just how powerful his story is, because he's there narrating, and this is not as you learned from another book, which we also recommend kind of like as a tangential thing, we'll get to it a little bit here, by another guy that that Goggins lived with. You get a sense that this guy is not exactly chatty. He doesn't really divulge himself, but in this audiobook, we go deep into his psyche, and he talks deeply and passionately about a lot of different, very uncomfortable, very painful things that happened to him growing up. The paper version, hardback or Kindle version, is very, very popular. 4.8 out of 5-star review, 2,600 reviews on Amazon for the print version. The Audible version, a little bit more popular.
Yeah, right. So and also 4.9 out of 5 for Audible, and it's got just shy, as we're recording this, just shy of 47,000 reviews. Yeah. Now
4,700. We didn't missay that. It's 47,000 reviews.
Right.
Number 16 out of every Audible book in existence, which I don't know how many hundreds of thousands or even millions of audiobooks. This is top 20, almost top 15 out of all of them. Number 3 overall in the success and self-help category, and number 3 in the memoirs category, which never happens. It's either your story of like how you grew up in Egypt, or it's your story of, like various adventures that you've had in your life, or the traumas that you've had, but not success and self-help. Like, those are two totally different parts of the bookstore, and yet it's the exact, like, the crossover between those two things, I think, is a big reason why it's as successful as it is. I first found out about this book from my friend Ben, who had heard about it from another guy who's like, this was a great book, you should check it out. So he sent it to me. He didn't read it. He's just like, this sounds like a superior men-ish kind of thing. Like, you guys, like, you love pushing the boundaries and seeing, what you can accomplish. And this guy seems like he's pretty crazy. You should check it out. So I listened to it. It really helped me. I'm back in May. At the end of May and into June, I ran my first official marathon, and this book was instrumental in helping push through your boundaries. And I'm going to tell you right now, Matt, when you've done Peloton workouts, have you listened to Can't Hurt Me while you're doing that?
Did I listen to it? No, so I don't.
Yeah,
I actually just go mindless music. I can't do audiobooks when I'm working out. For whatever reason, it just doesn't jive with me.
Okay, yeah, because for me, I was like, I'd be running, and he's talking about how he's suffering through an ultra marathon, and he's like on mile 79, and like, my
right.
like I'm bleeding everywhere, and like I sit down, and like just poop is rolling out of my butt, and I have no control of it and stuff, and I'm like on mile 4, and I'm like, all right, fine, I have nothing to complain about. So I read it. I read it.
Miles ahead of you, right?
Yeah, 75 miles into like a 150-mile race, right? So it's so inspiring to me personally, and then all of the changes he made in his life. I finished the book, and I recommended it back to Ben. I'm like, you have to listen to this book. And he listened to it, and he's like, wow, this is really good. And then I started sharing it with other people, and Matt got a chance to listen to it. So it's really interesting. And you found out about the book because I couldn't stop talking about it.
Right. No, and that's, as soon as you told me about it, I'm like, yep, went out, got it, listened to it in, like 2 days, I think. I listened to the whole book. So it's really cool. So give us a little bio of Goggins.
Wow, like that's,
I know,
there's a lot. There's a lot. We'll do the quick and
take a couple hours. Just 3.5 hours.
All right,
bio.
that's it. We have a 30-minute podcast, and I'm going to compress several hours worth into the next minute here. So he's a retired Navy SEAL, only member of the U.S. Armed Forces to complete SEAL training, including, he was actually in 3 Hell Weeks, which most people can't even make it through a Hell Week partway through. Also, our U.S. Army Ranger School, where he graduated enlisted honor man, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. And he's the only member of the armed forces ever to do all 3 of those. He's also an endurance athlete, He's been in over 60 ultra marathons, Ironman triathlons, ultra triathlons, and he's won many of them. And he doesn't even care about winning. He's insane.
No.
Also Guinness World Record for pull-ups. What was that?
No, I'm just saying he doesn't care about winning. It's a really amazing thing where he's doing it to push himself, and that's it. That is the reason. Like, that is what's amazing about him. He's not like, I gotta win, I gotta do this. It's, no, I need to push myself. I need to do this.
You're 100% correct. There's nobody I've ever met like him in that way. He does not like winning. He doesn't like losing. He doesn't like, it's like the process of ending anything is, that's the most uncomfortable part of his life. As soon as he finishes a race, like everyone else is like, let's stand around and we'll take photos and, here's your medal and all that stuff, and he'll just like walk off. He doesn't even want to do it.
Right.
If he has to do it because he's raised millions of dollars for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which is an incredible charity that takes care of Navy SEALs and other people who have their families, if you have died in combat, their families are taken care of as a result of the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. He's raised tremendous amount for them, but that would be the only reason that he would stand around and do photo ops and stuff. Because that's probably more uncomfortable to him than a 100-mile race.
I think for him, yeah, absolutely. No, and really that's what it is. It's like he's just trying to push himself to get more, to do more, to be better, for just to see where his limits are. I mean, I love it that just quick when he talks about the very first ultra marathon he ever did. He went into it and he learned about it like 2 days before the race and did the 24-hour race and was like, all right, let's do this. So it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
He wasn't training either. Like, he hadn't trained.
No.
He'd done a marathon a couple of years earlier, and then he was running 10, 15 miles a week or something like that. And he decided he needed something to kick his ass, and so he actually wanted to join, do the Badwater race, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Calls up the guy, and the guy's like, well, you really need to have some experience under your belt before you do this. There's a race coming up in a couple of days. If you can finish that, then call me back and maybe we'll, consider
right.
it. So he's just like, okay, 48 hours, like 3-day train, 2 or 3 days. And then he's like, he just goes and does it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that it seems like ever since he's a little kid, he has kind of been in this zone almost that he could put himself in. So Matt, let's talk us through that a little bit. Kind of his background. The table of contents of this book is kind of like the table of contents of his life, kind of the beginning and where he came from and what he turned into. Let's talk kind of about that a little bit. Where did he come from and what was his process?
So what I thought was interesting too is really the book is sort of structured at the beginning is the beginning of his life and the hardships that he faced kind of growing up and academically and with an abusive father and all kinds of things. Like just basically he had a very, very rough childhood, very, very bad childhood, given a really terrible start at life. And he kind of goes through a lot of that. And I think that was cathartic and a very difficult process for him as far as, telling his story and getting that down onto paper. And then talks about like he joined the military and then sort of, got out and was sort of lost and working a really like a pest control job that was terrible. Got back into the military, skipping over a huge thing where basically he lost 106 pounds in really about 2 months, 2.5 months or so is the time frame.
Under 3 months.
So so he had that, and we have an article on that Jay wrote up. It's an awesome article. Definitely check that out. As far as him getting into the Navy in order to go to SEAL training. So he had that, and then the last part is talking about his athletic achievements, which does bleed a little bit into being in the military for what he did. But he sort of got a little bit disenfranchised with the SEALs because he looked at them and put them on this extremely high pedestal of wanting to be these super high level overachievers. And a lot of these guys were just like, well, they did that, and then now they have reached the end, so they're good. And David Goggins would always just look for more. And and then basically he went through all these series of challenges that are in here. But let's get into this next part here. I really want to go, let's go through some of our questions here. So Jay, what did you like best about this book?
I liked this book probably. I mean, there's so many great things about this book, but probably the ones that I like the most, maybe the single thing that I like the most, is that Goggins really wants to help you. Like, he's accomplished great things, but a lot of people have accomplished great things in life. This book is kind of written and designed to help you destroy any mental barriers that you have to success in any area of your life. And that is, you can tell he has that strong feeling like, this is why I'm telling my story. This is why I'm sharing. It's not just to talk about how amazing I am. He doesn't really talk about the stuff that he does. Like, just on average, he always has a purpose for it. And this book is very much like him walking you through this idea of like, look, anything that you think you can't do, you're wrong. You can do it. And whatever changes you want to make in your life, like, if I can do it, you can do it. And systematically kind of blows away all of the ceilings that you have. Even his physical capacity, you learn, oh, he's just super strong. He's just like a genetic gift. But no, it turns out that he actually has a giant hole in his heart that he was working against the entire time. So just whatever thing that you think you can't do, by the time you finish this book, you'll be going, well, maybe I can do it. I love that.
All right, so give me a quote or two, Jay.
Let's see. So there's two quotes. Actually, there's a bunch of quotes. But there's two quotes in particular that I think are the ones that grab me. One of them is, he says, "In the military, we always say we don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training." And to me, that's a really big deal. It's not a quote specifically from him. It's a quote from the military in general, but it's that concept of where you teach yourself to become, the habits that you are make you. And the more stress, the more difficulty that you're surrounded by, the more that's going to change you. And then the next thing is, he says, "The reason it's important to push hardest when you want to quit the most is because it helps you callous your mind. It's the same reason why you have to do your best work when you are the least motivated. That's why I loved PT and Buds and why I still love it today. Physical challenges strengthen my mind, so I'm ready for whatever life throws at me, and it'll do the same for you." And that's that concept of kind of using physical exercise and some kind of like difficulty that you're pushing yourself through will strengthen your brain, will strengthen your heart, your courage, your habits, your motivation, and all that stuff, and that will transform what you're capable of doing. So those two in particular really stand out.
Yeah, that's good, and I agree. I think it's hard to find a good quote in this book. It's full of them. So that's really good. So what did you learn from this book, or how did it change you? Like, what was your big takeaway?
I would say how it's changed me. We'll say that, because it was kind of the same thing. If you learn something, then it should change you, right? I would say it changed me in this idea that I'm weaker than I thought, and that's okay. He uses something, one of his challenges, he has 10 challenges in the book, and one of them is called the accountability mirror. And the accountability mirror is when you stand in front of your mirror and you ask yourself questions, and then you respond brutally honestly about it. Like, what do you look like? Like, are you fat? Call yourself fat. How well do you deal with discomfort? Are you a pussy when you're confronted with things that are difficult? Okay, then you're a pussy. Admit that. And if you can admit it, if you can be brutally honest with yourself and admit who and what you are, then you can change it. And that's
absolutely
super powerful.
God, absolutely. All right, give me a critique
I would say, Goggins-esque. He would say there's always room for improvement. His book it's not warm and fuzzy. You won't finish it by feeling like, I'm comfortable on the couch anymore. You're gonna be unhappy with your life by the time you finish this book, in a good way. But you're not gonna like it, and you will not be the same by the time you're done. It will force you to start looking at all the things that you don't want to look at, and that's a challenge.
Right? No, absolutely good point. And give me a question you'd ask him.
Oh man, I would be like, so. I mean,
he probably won't respond. He wouldn't answer it.
Yeah, that would be it. Like, but my one question would be like, so now in 2018, are you 2019 now? Are you? This book was written at the end of 2018. Do you feel like you kind of are at peace with the world compared to where you have been? Because it seems like for a long time he's not been at peace with himself. Like, he pushes and pushes and pushes, and he never gets to chill out, and he never just gets to be like, okay. So I'd ask him about that.
Right. And I think we both have the same book here as far as a related book. There's a book called 30 or Living with a SEAL, 31 Days Training with the toughest person on planet by Jesse Itzler. I think that's probably, if I'm speaking for you on that one too, but
that 100%. This is the other side of David Goggins. This is he lives with a SEAL for 30 days, this entrepreneur Jesse Itzler, and you get a chance to see what David Goggins is like from the outside. Can't Hurt Me is from the inside. This book's from the outside, so it's a great two-person thing. Matt, let's put you on the hot seat for the minute. What did you like best about this book?
So, what I really enjoyed about this book was call it rags to riches, but really the thing of he was that like absolute, not a prime specimen at all. He carved himself out of a shit bunch of rock, and made himself into an amazing sculpture. And so he's just that definition of that like self-made person. I'm sure that there's many faults with him, and he would be the first to admit it, but it's really that sort of a self-created person. I love that part about it.
It's so admirable to watch him go through that process, and this book breaks it down in such great detail. Let's how about a quote or two?
All right, so one that I really like too is where he says, "But visualization isn't simply about daydreaming of some trophy ceremony, real or metaphorical. You must also visualize the challenges that are likely to arise and determine how you will attack those problems when they do. That way you can be as prepared as possible for the journey." Love that quote. And then one of the other ones sort of related here is even the best pep talk or self-help hack is nothing but a temporary fix. It won't rewire your brain. It won't amplify your voice or uplift your life. Motivation changes exactly nobody. The bad hand that was my life was mine, and mine alone to fix. So sort of related with that. It's awesome. Love those two quotes.
Those are great quotes. Like you were saying before, there's so many excellent quotes in this book. It's like just find a random page and start reading, and you'd be like, oh, that's a good one.
Right.
But those concepts of visualizing challenges and going, stop accepting and start pushing, like that's so powerful. What did you learn from this book? How did it change you?
So I guess I would say it's sort of along the same thing where I think a lot of people just tend to dismiss somebody. Like if you see a high level athlete, you're just like, oh, well, he's gifted. He's amazing. He's just got this talent that I don't have. And yeah. I would say for me, that's what I learned. It's just like, no, that's not it. What it is you pushing yourself, if you have that little motor, Adam Carolla calls it like a little motor, if you have that in you, pushing you, driving you, that's going to be that difference between a successful and unsuccessful person.
I love that motor concept.
Yeah.
And it's if you turn it on, once you get that going, man, it will change you. So that's a great concept. It's like the book changes you by you changing you.
Right.
So what do you like least?
Well, really, I would say my critique? My thing with this is there was a lot of explanation when he was a kid as far as what was going on in his life and whatever, but as he was older, as all of us were not, he sort of painted himself one-dimensionally as an adult, where he was only focusing for the book as far as like his athletic career and whatever. And so I know that he had mentioned that he was married, and I'd heard some other stuff about that, but like there's other parts of your life. You're not just working out. You're not just your career. You have relationships and family and whatever, and I think having a little bit more well-rounded perspective, at least from his perspective, would have been good in my opinion.
That's a great point. And it's also really valuable to understand how everything works together, in the synergy of your life.
Right.
Because just because you're accomplishing one thing doesn't mean that you're accomplishing other things that are outside of that one exact goal, and that definitely impacts you in every way. What questions would you ask Goggins?
I think...
Would you ask him about this?
I think really... Yeah, I think that's what I would be asking him. I would be asking him about like his life, what was going on in his personal life, because that's a whole other thing to it. And I think that potentially has, it would bleed into what he was doing maybe physically. So I think that would be really my thing. That's what I would ask him on here too. So, and overall, guys, this is a great book. I cannot highly recommend this enough. If you are not an audiobook fan, try it out on this book. I guarantee you it'll change your mind as far as where you're at on audiobooks. This one it's phenomenal. It has the writer is the narrator on the audiobook, and then Goggins is there listening, and then at the end of each chapter, and actually not even at the end, sometimes they will just interrupt in the middle and start talking. So I think that's great. Jay, final thoughts?
It's like you're saying, it's an amazing book. Make sure you also pick up Living with a Seal as well by Jesse Itzler. And that book is just an excellent companion piece to this, fills it out. It rounds the perspective, makes Goggins much more three-dimensional as a person. But Can't Hurt Me is just one of those books that truly is life-changing, and it deserves every accolade that's given to it. And how about you, Matt? Last thoughts here?
Nope, we're good. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it. You guys have to. This book will change you. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Hey guys, thanks once again for listening to the Superior Men Bookcast. Make sure you like this, subscribe, share, and tell your friends. And remember that, keep reading, stay superior.
A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one. Thank you for listening to the Superior Men Bookcast. Share it with a friend. You heard our thoughts. Go read it for yourself.